Looking for a guaranteed way to create content that resonates with your audience? Start a podcast. Interview your ideal clients and let them choose the topic of the interview. Because if your ideal clients care about the topic, there's a good chance the rest of your audience will care about it too. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show. Welcome back to B2B Growth. I'm Logan Lyles with Sweetfish Media. Today, I'm joined by Kelli Turner. She is the Director of Marketing and Communications over at ZOLL Data. Kelli, how's it going today?
It's going wonderfully. Thank you for having me.
I am so excited to talk shop with you today, Kelli. It's great to talk with other marketing minds right here in Colorado, in my own neck of the woods. So we're going to be talking about really your team's pivot to content marketing and some lessons learned along the way as you guys have been trying to figure out how do you scale a content engine within your marketing department. Before we jump straight to that, though, as we always do, I'd love for you to tell listeners a little bit about yourself, some context. What are you and the team at ZOLL Data up to these days?
Well, sure. So first, let me tell you a little bit about ZOLL. ZOLL develops medical devices and software to help advance emergency care and save lives. Yay! Of course, saving lives is our main priority, but our solutions also aid in improving clinical outcomes and operational efficiencies. So it's a win-win. We have multiple divisions at ZOLL serving different markets, and I am in the data or software division, and I have been with the company for over 13 years. So I have seen us go from old school marketing to the newer digital marketing. So I've seen it all. So the change that we went through is pretty profound.
Yeah, absolutely. So that actually kicks off this conversation really well, Kelli, as if we had planned it. So, let's talk a little bit about, before we get into your lessons learned, tell us a little bit about that transition, because I know a lot of folks listening to this, are at B2B SaaS companies that live and breathe content marketing day in and day out. But there are also folks who are in industries that are maybe a little bit further behind in their transition to content marketing, or they're trying to make that transition for their organization. So if you could kind of speak to that transition that you saw and headed up within your team before we get to some of those lessons learned, I think that would be some good background for folks.
Sure, you bet. So first, I'll say that being a medical device company, you are really limited to the types of things you can talk about. So that was kind of the first hurdle, was breaking the norm. We decided, this was back in the 2011, we decided, okay, we need to make a kind of fundamental shift in the way we do our marketing. In the past, it was mainly print ads and account-based direct marketing campaigns. That's pretty much what we did. And our advertising was very self-centered, focused on what we can do for you. And so one of the changes we wanted to make was, first, our marketing efforts had to be data-driven. We needed to be able to track our progress, which we weren't doing very well, of course, with print ads and even the account-based marketing programs. Secondly, we wanted to be customer-focused. We really wanted to be pro-customer. And thirdly, we wanted to be seen by our customers as a mentor, like a valued resource in the industry. We wanted them to come to us when they had, questions or problems, around our area of expertise. So those are the kind of things that we decided we wanted to do. And at that time, our team was really small. There was roughly 5 of us. So our team of 5 decided to set out on our content journey. We talked to our customers, and then of course, our internal stakeholders of like sales support, customer success. And we found there was no shortage of topics to talk about, lots of things to talk about that our customers wanted to learn more about. So we created our content strategy, picked our topics, selected, how often we were going to do them, which at that time was we wanted to do a blog post every week and we wanted to do one educational webinar each month. So then we began to assign the topics with deadlines to our internal subject matter experts, and we were on our road to success.
And, as you and I were talking offline a little bit, you guys have had some great successes there, Kelli, but I imagine there were some bumps in the road along the way. And what I find is that, whether it's marketing, leadership, any sort of topic, we learn more from our failures. So if you're willing, I would love for you to unpack maybe some of the things that you'd wish you'd known going in, or those lumps that you took early on as you guys made the transition to building and eventually scaling your content efforts on your team.
Oh yes, we did hit some serious barriers, obstacles that we had to overcome. So the first one was at the data division, we have close to 300 subject matter experts, technology experts in the house. So our first failure came from thinking that we had enough in-house resources to develop the quantity and quality of content that would be valuable to our customers. When we started assigning topics, to the appropriate people, and we found that they, one, weren't excited about doing it. They flat out said no. They, didn't have time, that type of thing. And so we quickly realized, okay, this isn't going to work. So then we said, okay, well, if our internal subject matter experts can't help us come up with the content, we decided, well, we're smart marketers. We can develop this content, right? And so we decided to kind of take on the majority of the content creation ourselves. And that was an eye-opening experience in itself because, when it takes quite a bit of time to come up with each piece of content. I started writing a blog, knew exactly what I was going to write about. I knew the topic. I was, precise on everything I wanted to say. And I started writing. The words flew out of me. I didn't move, didn't get up to go to the restroom, nothing. And I was done. And it was 4 hours later. And that was with absolute focus, no interruptions, knowing exactly what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And that didn't include all the things, like editing, adding the images, backlinks. Is it keyword? Does it have keywords so people can find it? All that stuff. That was the whole next step. So I quickly realized that what we're going to have to do here is figure out a way to determine how much content we can produce realistically.
Yeah. How did you start to benchmark that with your team, Kelli, to figure out, okay, if this is what we want to do, now I can back into it and realize, okay, this is the time it's going to take, just individually per piece or amount of content per month? Or how did you kind of go about backing into those numbers a bit?
So the first thing we did was we created a process for each piece of content. So, a blog had a process. A webinar had a process, an ebook had a process. And so it made sure that you had all the steps to be successful from the idea all the way through the promotion, the execution and the promotion. And we used a project management tool that allows for time tracking. It did not go over well at first, I will say that, but it was required. We had to do it because we were saying things like, oh, blog post, I'll get that out in, a couple hours. And we just had no idea how much we could take on. And we were finding ourselves overwhelmed, swamped, beginning to be burnout, the type of thing. So we started tracking our time. And we were finding that, a blog post to do everything was closer to that 8-hour time frame instead of that 4. A webinar, we knew that we had to, if we wanted 2 weeks to promote the webinar, we knew that we had to back it up and have, a month of production time to be successful in everything that we had to do. So figuring out, how much time it took to do each piece was crucial to see how much our team, and which is small, could handle. So that's how we went about it.
Hey everybody, Logan with Sweetfish here. You probably already know that we think you should start a podcast if you haven't already. But what if you have and you're asking these kinds of questions? How much has our podcast impacted revenue this year? How's our sales team actually leveraging the podcast content? If you can't answer these questions, you're actually not alone. This is why Casted created the very first content marketing platform made specifically for B2B podcasting. Now you can more easily search and share your audio content while getting greater visibility into the impact of your podcast. The marketing teams at Drift, Terminus, and here at Sweetfish have started using Casted to get more value out of our podcasts, and you probably can too. You can check out the product in action at casted.us/growth. That's casted.us/growth. All right, let's get back to the show.
All right, Kelli, I love how you're backing up and talking about some of those roadblocks you guys hit initially. You guys sound like you were able to get some quick wins, realizing that, okay, we need to time track. We need to account for more time in publishing and promotion, not just the creation. The other thing you talked about earlier is having subject matter experts within your walls. And I talked to a lot of marketing teams that have subject matter experts and a ton of expertise within their walls, but it's not translating to thought leadership. Was that an obstacle for you guys? Did you find some areas to get some quick wins there maybe?
We sure did. So we had the exact same problem as I kind of mentioned before. And this was a quick win. And we kind of did it in a quick little win and then a better win. The quick win was, instead of assigning the subject matter experts a topic and just, having them be responsible for writing about it, what we found was, of course, it wasn't that they didn't want to do it. It's not their area of expertise. They felt burdened. They didn't feel like they could do a good job on it. They didn't even know what kind of we were looking for. And so, they shied away. So what we did was we created just the kind of old school journalist approach. And we approached it as if we were going to interview them. We gave them the topic that we wanted to talk about in advance. We told them kind of the questions that we did. And just kind of like this, this podcast, we went in it like that, and it took the fear away and it took the burden away, because after we interviewed them, then we collected the information and we built out the content from there. And so not only did they appreciate the burden being taken off of them, they actually loved participating. And so we went from all of our subject matter experts not wanting to even be involved to now it's kind of like take a number. We'll get back to you on the next time when we come around. So it's really great. I found also the better win though was to really get laser focused on the kind of content we wanted to create. In the beginning, we thought and I don't like to take shortcuts, but some of our content we took a few shortcuts that I don't recommend. But one of them was to hand over the interview questions to that subject matter expert and then have them complete them and then send it back to us, and we would develop the content. And that's the shortcut that we ended up fixing, because we noticed that we weren't getting to the real story, because without that interaction back and forth, there might be something missing. There might be more information to be gained. So really getting laser focused on, what you want to accomplish with really every piece of content helps navigate both you and that subject matter expert into getting those really great bits of information.
Yeah. So did you guys move from just giving them the questions, having them maybe email them back, and then instead sit down, maybe record those with someone from the marketing team interviewing them?
Exactly. And that kind of goes back to that time tracking again. So in the first way we were doing it, which was just sending out the, questions, we could send those out in bulk and then get them back and start, kind of crafting content. But we were seeing that the quantity or the quality just wasn't there, and we weren't hitting the stories right. And so we decided, okay, we're going to have to, just take more of the effort up front and to get that better quality content and do that interview and poke and ask more questions.
Yeah, I love it.
So that's how we do it now.
Kelli, as you guys have been since then, learning, taking your lumps early, finding out some ways to pivot, as you and I were talking a little bit offline, you've been able to successfully scale your content production within your team. What have been some of the key factors for you guys in this latest stage of growing out your content engine?
So we're still a small marketing group. And we did settle on, I think I said in the beginning, we wanted to do one blog post every week and one large piece of content like a webinar every month. Well, that went out the window. After we did our time calculations, that was not achievable. So now we're settled on 2 blog posts per week and then one large piece of content like a webinar each quarter. So that's what we can do. That's what we can successfully do well. But there's more content that's out there. There's more we can do. And so we've decided, we said, okay, well, how are we going to scale this? It's either add another, head count or devote maybe some marketing dollars to additional content. And that's kind of what we did. The first thing we did was we are so lucky to be in an industry where the customers love to talk about their successes. So that was another easy win, was let's get our customers to contribute and tell their stories, which are basically case studies, right? And so we have a plethora of customers just wanting to tell their stories. So that's been a great, added way to get additional perspective content, I should call that. And then the other thing was, outsourcing the content. We realized kind of quickly that, there's tons of, copywriting services that can help you with that. That didn't necessarily work for us. We're in a very niche market and there's tons of acronyms. And if you're not writing in such a way, people can tell if you're in the industry and if you're not. And so that type of outsourcing did not work. And we did try that, several times with all sorts of different companies and that type of thing. Where we did find our success was to outsourcing to people in our industry that are already existing thought leaders. And we basically did, the old school give you a column on our in our newspaper type of thing, and we gave them the ability to contribute. Of course, we compensate them, and they're contributing their expertise on our platform, which has been really great. So we're kind of merging their thought leadership and our brand together, and then they're thought leaders. They have this great social following. So we're really expanding our reach by tapping into these existing thought leaders. You can go, one of 2 ways. You can build it from scratch, from the ground up, if you've got, the money and the infrastructure, which we did not have. Yeah. Or you can partner with your industry experts. And that's what we did. And that's where we have found the biggest results.
Yeah. And the other thing you've got to think about is, do you have enough runway for you to be able to see the payback on that investment of building that out? So I think you guys were able to find, even though you mentioned not liking shortcuts, you found some shortcuts that we found in our own approach as well as a small bootstrap startup. Growing quickly. Where can you find those partnerships? And that's where, just side tangent for us, it's really all about community. If you're not doing things, to build community within your target market, then it makes those sorts of things very tough. But when you are doing those things, it makes it very easy to find those people. Hey, you've got a following. We can, merge your thought leadership with our brand. It's a win-win, just like you said it there, Kelli. I think that was fantastic. Kelli, if anybody listening to this would like to stay connected with you, reach out and ask any follow-up questions, maybe they're at a similar point in their marketing journey, or maybe they're like you and just love talking shop with other B2B marketers. I would love to give you the chance to let people know what's the easiest way to stay connected with you, reach out, anything like that.
I think it would be LinkedIn. Please, I am always an open book and willing to share my trials and tribulations just to help somebody else get ahead. So feel free to reach out to me. It's Kelli with an I, Turner, Kelli.Turner, and you can find me on LinkedIn.
I love it. Kelli, that's exactly what you did today, and that's why I love this conversation. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
You're so welcome. I had such a good time. Thank you so much.
We totally get it. We publish a ton of content on this podcast, and it can be a lot to keep up with. That's why we've started the B2B Growth Big 3, a no-fluff email that boils down our 3 biggest takeaways from an entire week of episodes. Sign up today at sweetfishmedia.com/big3. That's sweetfishmedia.com/big3.